Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. On the last segment, I played one song that I wrote, keeping it to 6 notes, and we did it on different instruments just to see how it would sound. So you can see that when you're playing an instrument that's in a different key, that it's going to come out as a different key. I used exactly the same fingerings, exactly the same notes and different instruments, and that's what happened. You could hear it and see how it sounded. Now, I'm going to start off, I'm going to do something a little similar, but I'm going to, one of the hymns that people love the most in Christian music is Amazing Grace. And it's a beautiful song. It's in public domain. And so what I've decided to do is I wrote it, a version of it, and I keep changing key. Now I'm using one instrument, and I'm changing key but playing it on the same instrument. In the last segment, I played it exactly as I had written it, but I played it on different instruments. And of course, it came out in different kinds of ways because the instruments themselves are in different keys. Well, this time I'm playing this song, and I'm using the same instrument, and I'm deliberately changing key every so often. Now, if you want to take a look at the music here, as I change keys, I change the color of the notes. I don't know if that shows up on the screen or not. I think it does some. So here's the song. I'm also adding some scale work to it, and changing some octaves to it. And here it changes key from the key of G, which is 1 sharp. I'm changing it here to 2 sharps, which is the key of D, and then I'm changing it right here to the key of C with no sharps and flats. Then I'm going into the original key, which was the same as this. So it keeps changing key, and I keep changing the color of the notes so you can catch it. So you may be familiar with it. So I'd like to have you basically pay attention to the music. We're going to see how this goes, playing the same song but in different keys, and then going back to the original key. Now, you're probably familiar with the song anyway, many of you. You will be by the time you get finished, because I will have played it 3 or 4 times in different keys. So this is Amazing Grace. Okay, so that is Amazing Grace with key changes. I'm starting off, if we can take a look at the music here, I'm starting off in the key of G. This is a D, and it goes up to G. These are 8th notes, and since this is 3, I did it in 3/4 time. That's like a waltz tempo. That's the way it was written to begin with. So 3 beats to the measure, and the quarter note gets 1 beat. So this is one. This would be 3, and then this would be 1, 2, 3, and, because these are eighth notes. So the eighth notes are half the length of a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. The quarter notes got 1 beat, the half notes got 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and. Here you get the eighth notes again. B and A, and then it goes up to that D. Now the way that you finger the D is you use your recorder, and it's a hard note if you're a beginner. It comes out beautifully, but it's only one finger. This is the only finger, the middle finger, that's the only one. If you put your thumb down, you get the C. If you take your thumb off or pull it down, you get that D. So this is a C, and then all I have to do is remove my thumb. Now I'm not going to really take it off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it down so that that note is not covered. And otherwise, if I pull it off, the balance isn't there. Now, I have another way of playing the D, and that's the way the flute plays it, but it's not supposed to be a regular fingering for the recorder. The flute, when you play the D, you have all the fingers covered, except this one goes up. So this one is up. Everything else is covered, including the tone hole in the back. Now the correct one is the one I showed you before. There's a little tiny bit of difference in the pitch, but not a lot of difference. So under certain circumstances, I will use an alternate fingering because it may be easier to get. And so it runs off. I did a lot of scale work, D, and I go G, A, B, C, B, A, and then go. So I'm doing some scale work and then going back to the melody, doing more scale work and going back to the melody. And I do this off and on all the way through the piece. So you have a lot of eighth notes here. So you have to be able to play the scales, which I'm going to be spending more time with as time goes on. But remember, you've got to tongue them. That's all tonguing. If I can't tongue, and it just doesn't have that crisp sound, it doesn't sound good at all. So what you have to do is really learn how to tongue, and I've described this before. You put the mouthpiece in your mouth, and then about a third of the way, and then you kind of tap like you're saying ta or tu, and you put your tongue on the mouthpiece as you're doing it, and then you draw your tongue away. It doesn't stay there. You see, any instrument, you've got to be able to tongue. It's just the name of the game. So I'm going to play this one more time before I go on to something else, and you can see my fingerings as I do it. And so right now, the focus isn't so much on this as it is on the fingerings that I'm going to be doing. So I'll play this again. So now you could see my hand position, the way I was tonguing, the way I was going from one note to another. I can finger it, I can go back to the original note, all because I have my fingers curved and the pads of my fingers cover completely the note that I want, unless it's a sharp. And of course, in this case, I might have had a few F sharps. If this is the F, to make a sharp, an F sharp, all I have to do is use this middle finger, skip this, and use the middle finger. If I do this, F, F sharp. That's the F sharp. So a couple of things that I need to show you here. I did use the alternate finger for the D in one case where I used the flute fingering for the D. And once I used the other fingering, which is the regular fingering. And so I changed the fingerings around a little bit depending upon what was easiest to do. And so you have a choice when you're playing. If you have more than one fingering, you use that which is the easiest to use. Or if you have a fast passage. Now, I didn't play this very fast. It's not a fast song. So when I got to the scale work, here's the B. And then to get to the C, you lift that finger up and you put the B down again when you want it. B, C, B, C. I think probably what I should be doing for you is writing out some exercises so you will have a chance to use these notes when you're playing in a song. Low D. Now this is where I would use the flute fingering. In fact, I refingered the E. The D is like this on the flute. Sometimes if the E follows, you can lift that fourth finger and get an E. Normally with an E, this is the E, here's the D, but sometimes you can just get the E by lifting that finger. If you're using the regular fingering for the recorder, that D has just that one finger, and then sometimes that's a little hard to manage if you're going fast. And the way that I wrote it, that's a lot easier than in which it's easier to drop the instrument. So I regularly, when I'm playing, use instrument fingerings that may not be traditional for the recorder, but nonetheless work. The C sharp is another example. The C sharp in the recorder is two fingers down, and this finger, the thumb hole, is uncovered. But for saxophones, it's easier to play it with all the keys open. Except for the thumb hole. The thumb hole has to be covered. So I would play my C sharp like the saxophone does it, and it works out. But if I'm going to play it like the recorder does it, and then if you use this finger, it's harder to get down to the E because of the way that you have to put your fingers down at the same time. That's the way that you would do it on the recorder, which is the correct way. If I'm doing it on the saxophone, and for the E, sometimes I just lift up that little finger, that fourth finger, and get the E, where normally you would play it like this. Well, if I play an E, a D like this, I may just be able to lift up that fourth finger. There are little tricks that I use. Now, you generally don't, you teach people how to do it the right way. But sometimes I just kind of alternate and fake it a little. And the reason I do that is the fact that it comes in, it's easier to play it. It comes in good enough, the pitch is good enough, especially if you're playing something where you have a lot of scale work, which I did quite a bit of scale work in here, and we're going to get into scales. But to play them, you need to tongue them, you need to be able to tongue them. So I think we have a few minutes left. We don't have too much left. So I think what I'm going to do is play it again. And just for the sake of you hearing it, one, it's a beautiful hymn. It's a lot of people's favorite. And I want you to get used to the fact that you can change a key and play the same song. You can change the timing sometimes and play the same song. You can change the instrument and use the same fingerings, and it's going to come out of a different key because of the fact that the instrument is a different instrument and it's in a different key. The melody recorder is in the key of C, which I like because you don't have to transpose anything. You play it as it's written. But you know, other instruments can play the same thing. And I don't have, I was going to see if I could do this on another instrument, but I don't think it would sound very good if I did. I wouldn't be able to get the range that I can get in the recorder. The recorder has a nice two octave range, and it's in pitch with itself, but you can play it in different keys. So what I'm just going to do is play it once again, and just you could kind of listen, you can watch the music and see if you can follow along. And I'm not going to play it fast. I played it a little fast the second time because I knew there were things I wanted to show you. But let me try it again. I don't want to introduce another song because we really don't have time for that. So let me play this once again. Now I did change a couple of notes here and there because as I play it a lot and do a lot with it, sometimes I never play it twice the same way, but basically it was the same as when I wrote it. And you notice in the end of it, there's a hole, that fermata is on the last of the music, which is right here. And that is a little archway with a dot in it. That means play it longer. hold it longer. So although it's two beats here and the third beat over here, as I've explained before, but you take and hold that for as long as you hold it. Now, since that's the end of the song, what I normally would do is I would slow it down, you know, like it's coming to a conclusion. And then when I hit that last note, I'd hold it for maybe twice as long as it's written and maybe just fade out on it. So I could do something like this. Just let it fade away. Now the thing is, I have to be careful because if you're going to soften the tone, you may change the pitch of it. The more air you put into it, the higher the pitch gets. Now for most instruments that's okay, but if there's a vast difference and if you actually soften it, it may turn out for some of these instruments to be the note, one note below. But you need to learn how to play it and change the level of the song in terms of loudness, so you can play it softer without dropping the tone too much, or play it with louder without raising the tone too much. Sometimes when you play loud and add more air, the pitch actually elevates. So it's kind of a trick to get the pitch to get louder but not elevate too high so that you lose the pitch of the tone, or to slow it down and to make it softer and not drop the pitch too much. So at any rate, we're almost out of time. I didn't expect to spend all of my time on Amazing Grace, but it is an amazing song and people love it. And so I decided, you know, maybe I should be able to change key on that. I changed key 3 times and it came out as still being Amazing Grace. According to a friend of mine, I won't have broken any copyright laws. I don't have to worry about it anyway because it's in public domain. But if you change the pitch, you change the key, you change the notes, you make something a little bit different, then it's, as far as the Copyright Office is concerned, a different song, even though the melody turns out to be the same. I don't quite get that, but that's what I've been told. So anyway, we'll close it here, and we'll continue with different keys and different ways of writing music, and we'll continue with this next time. Please join me then.